Hello class, and welcome to English Online, where each lesson will explore a variety of texts and stories to deepen our understanding of the diverse and complex ideas about identity, others, and the world. This is your host, Mr. Sommerfeld, and in today's lesson we'll discuss imagery in poetry. Your job is to follow along with the slides presentation. If you have a question, click the link provided and ask away. And now, without further ado, today's lesson will focus on imagery in literature, specifically figures of speech representing sense experience. There's a lot to cover, so follow along as best you can. Let's start off with simile. Simile is two unlike things compared using like or as. You're going to notice a similarity when we talk about metaphor. Here's an example of simile. The man paced like a hungry lion. Now, picture yourself pacing like a hungry lion. What might that look like? So here's a funny little comic. A refuted simile. It's a clam saying that it's not really that happy. Aw, poor clam. Does anyone know the expression that this comic reflects? Exactly. You're as happy as a clam. That is a simile. Here are a bunch of examples. You were as brave as a lion. That's two similes using a lion. Cool. Next, they fought like cats and dogs. This is figurative language, so I'm not talking about an actual cat and an actual dog fighting. Maybe your parents say this to their friends to describe you and your siblings' behavior. He is as strong as an ox. I get that one a lot because I'm so strong. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen me in the weight room with those 8-pound dumbbells, doing bicep curls. So strong. Alrighty, pause the video and read the rest of them out loud to yourself. Y'all like music, I'm sure, so here are some similes from songs. If I have time, I'll post some of the links below. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. Go ahead, take a few minutes and listen to some of these amazing songs. Alright, now it's time for the literary term of terms. It is like the literary term. I'm talking, of course, about metaphor. You're going to notice something about it if you've been paying attention. Metaphor is two unlike things directly compared. For example, the river is a snake which coils on itself. Does the definition seem similar? We'll get back to that. Anyways, here's a quick little comic. There's a doctor and there's a patient who has been stabbed in the back. The patient literally has a knife sticking out of his back. Then we have the doctor saying, "Good news. The test results show it's a metaphor." Hilarious. Do you get it? If I gotta explain the joke, it won't be funny. I'll let you muse on it for a while. Now this chart, not that you can really see it, shows the difference between a simile and a metaphor. I'm sure you've noticed already. Simply put, if the comparison between two unlike things uses the words like or as, it's a simile. If it compares two unlike things and doesn't use like or as, it's a metaphor. Personification. Personification. This is when we give human qualities to things. For example, the trees danced in the breeze. Trees don't actually dance, but our brains like to make sense of things, so we might give them a human quality and say that they're dancing. You've all seen leaves blowing about in the wind. Well, maybe it's a dance party. The trees are dancing, the leaves are dancing, your neighbors are dancing, everybody's dancing. Go ahead and dance. Take a few minutes, nobody's watching. Apostrophe. You might be at home alone, as many of us are during this lockdown, and you have nobody to talk to. You're so lonely, like so lonely. And then you yell out to loneliness and say, "Loneliness, I can't take it anymore." And then you realize that loneliness is really just some abstract object, and then it's not really there. And then you feel even lonelier. Okay, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm all good. Just here alone. So yeah, that's apostrophe, addressing some abstract object. This next one here is important. It'll be on the test of life, because we're not going to have a formal test on any of these terms. You're going to need this one in order to graduate, and you'll probably need it for university. Literary allusion is when you refer metaphorically to persons, places, and things from history or literature. For example, and this is a Sommerfeld original, "Such lies and yet your nose remains the same. To what am I there referring? What am I referring to there?" Correct. Pinocchio. We're going to go through the rest of these quickly. So hyperbole is saying more than is true. Like this podcast is taking 100 years. Oh really? Well, I'm sorry you haven't figured out how to play YouTube videos at 2 times the normal speed. Anyways, I had an uncle that used to work so hard he wore his fingers to the bone. Now, if you actually think he worked so hard that he wore his fingers down to the bone, you're not getting hyperbole. You're not getting it. Not having to be at school because of COVID-19 meant that he could sleep in. Well, that's an understatement. It also means not being able to hang out with friends, not being able to go to the movies, no more pickup games of basketball, track and field season is canceled, even though you're probably going to win the provincial championships, but whatever. At least we can all sleep in late. That's understatement. You should all know this one, irony. Saying the opposite to what is true. For example, war is kind. No, war is not kind. Now you see the car with flames painted on it and it's also on fire? That's coincidence, not irony. Irony would be if the car with flames painted on it ended up at the bottom of a river. Opposite. Antithesis. Using contrast for effect. For example, deserts are dry, oceans are wet. Note the contrast here. Good versus evil. They are antithetical to one another. Antithesis. Antithesis. All right, say this one out loud. Have you given it a shot? Okay, it's pronounced Synecdoche. It's when you use a part of something to represent the whole of that thing. All hands on deck. We're not talking about just their hands, obviously. We want the whole person to come up to the deck of the ship and to get the work done. Can you think of any other examples? All right, the last one for today, metonymy. The boys in blue are patrolling the streets and keeping them safe. We're substituting the blue attribute of a typical police officer's uniform for the police officer themselves. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep learning and stay healthy.